Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with the ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not the slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report.
I have not seen the report.
Always super delighted to have you join us here on Global Morning, where we're coming to you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. This is Global Television. I am Uyi Agbomofwegbe, and it's a pleasure again to welcome you to the second installment of the program. This week is Tuesday, the 9th day in the month of July 2024. It's a great day, but what we do with it is going to even matter more than the promise that the day itself presents. And we hope you make the most of yours, because we're here already, maximizing the opportunity that today presents, so that in the end, we can count our blessings and name them one by one. Okay, once again, welcome to the program. The crew here at Global Television Abuja is proud to bring you Global Morning every weekday. But in the middle of all that, we don't want to take our eye off the ball, which is the fact that we have a stack of issues in front of us every other day in this country, whether it's the economy or the concerns around security or insecurity, depending on where you're looking at it from. The politics of this country, the political system, those who run it, the influencers, the key players, the actors themselves, or even social concerns or critical sectors like health, infrastructure, finance, education, and what have you. So we want to put those very topical and salient discussions right in front of you every chance we get. But we also don't want to forget real quick how that this morning, today, Tuesday, the 9th day in the month of July, that the Academic Staff Union of Universities, that is ASU, has scheduled a protest. Of course, on the one hand, the union members will be meeting today, but we understand workers are going on protests over several issues. But ASU in itself is particularly concerned about certain agreements that the federal government had reached with it. And ASU is saying that while we apparently are not in a hurry to go on strike or even call for any sort of industrial action, but that will be premised on government's willingness to fulfill the understanding that we have between us. That is the understanding between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Now, if you've been in this country long enough, or if you have even passed through university, public university, that is, in Nigeria in the last 15 years, I'm sure you're not ignorant of the 2009, that is the 2009 strike that took out about 8 calendar months, which some people would tell you is equivalent to one academic session from the university calendar in this country. I can't be sure, even though I've not taken out time to do meticulous analysis of the implication of whether or not we have recovered from the adverse impacts of that industrial action, because if you followed that development at the time, you realize that there were young people, undergraduates across public universities in this country who felt that all hope was lost. In other words, they were saying to themselves, given the length of this strike so far, there probably is no hope in sight. Therefore, let me go learn a skill, let me learn a trade, let me sign up for apprenticeship somewhere. So it is interesting how that's virtually 1.5 decades down the line, ASU still finds reasons to make a reference to that agreement. But of course, we understand that even beyond that, the federal government, particularly under the leadership of former President Muhammadu Buhari, has also reached certain agreements with ASU. Part of them, one of the very important clauses in that agreement, we understand that states very clearly, which we also understand the federal government had agreed to, was to provide the university authority or leadership 200 billion every other year, which will run into certain amounts in excess of a trillion over time. But whether or not that singular clause in itself or item has been fulfilled by the federal government. Of course, we also don't want to pretend that we are not aware of how that the government in itself has had to deal with several issues, whether it is paucity of funds occasioned by recession. Nigeria has had a few recessions between 2009 and today. Of course, the recession of 2008 that started from the United States also had its own multiplier effects in Africa, Nigeria being the lead. We have seen all of that. We also know that COVID-19 came biting 2020, 2021 in this country. But are those enough reasons for us to be where we are? I'm very sure, like most Nigerians, we agree, both those at home and in diaspora, that there's so much to talk about the university education system in this country, but it is almost impossible to have that conversation without having to wire in the ASU element. Let's take a deep breath and then hit a break at this point so we can join Fatimi Umar to bring you to this installment of Taste and Texture.
Vegetable beans pie. Beans pie, beyond their indulgent flavor, carry a hefty punch of health benefits. Tasty treats are made from navy beans, known for their high protein and fiber content, making them far more nutritious than your typical desserts. These wholesome pies have deep roots in promoting wellness within communities, making it bite not only delicious but historically significant. Hello and welcome to another episode of Taste and Texture. I'm Fatimi Umar. This vegetable pie is usually a surprise to many upon first trial. It packs such a great amount of flavor you won't believe there is no meat or fish in it. And now to the ingredients: flour, butter, salt, baking powder, sugar, nutmeg powder, beans, eggs, water, onions, Scotch red bonnet pepper, yellow pepper. And now to the pastry making. Add the flour into a mixing bowl, followed by the remaining dry ingredients: the salt, sugar, powdered milk, nutmeg, and baking powder. Mix well into the flour. Add chunks of butter to the flour mixture and egg and a little bit of water and mix vigorously. Keep mixing together until you achieve crumbs, which looks like a small size breadcrumbs. Place the dough into a bowl and cover with cling film and leave into the fridge for like 30 minutes. Add some oil into the saucepan. Put in your onions and Scotch bonnets finely chopped. And now to the filling. Add some oil into the saucepan. Once the oil is hot, add the chopped onions and fry until translucent. Add in the pepper and Scotch bonnet peppers and fry together on low heat for a further 2 minutes. Add the seasoning, mix everything into the saucepan and fry on low-medium heat. Then add the beans and mix well. Mash it a little bit and allow it to cool for 3 minutes and it's done. Then set it aside and allow it to cool. Roll out the dough on a lightly floured surface. Cut out whatever shape you prefer and roll it with a roller. Don't make it too thick or tiny. You can use anything in your kitchen to cut it into a nice shape of your desire. Beans may be good for someone's heart, gut, or liver health. Beans make an excellent source of protein for vegetarians and vegans. That's all for now. Bye.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
From several indicators, it will appear as a country, this is not an attempt or effort to apportion blame, but it will appear for the most part we're not ready yet to get committed by whatever means, to whatever extent, to excellence in our university education, particularly the public university segment of that strand, as it were. Because as it stands right now, it's interesting how that in 2024, Nigeria as a country, the most populous black nation on earth, the giant of Africa, is still busy discussing whether to go on strike or not. It's still busy discussing whether to do an upward review of allocation to education or not. It's still busy discussing whether or not universities should have autonomy. It's still busy discussing whether or not universities should be exempted from the treasury single account. It's still busy discussing whether or not we should go ahead with the governing councils of universities as currently constituted or not. We're still busy discussing pedestrian issues while other countries are fast making progress discussing STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I'm not so sure if all of these indicators show that we are serious as a country about our education, but we also don't want to be distracted from the immediate issues. It's a good thing that Queen Agaba is on the show now. It's also relieving to know that the fuel scarcity and all of the increase in fares accompanying that phenomenon have not been able to stop her from coming on the program. Queen, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Good morning. Prior to yesterday, a whole lot of activities, particularly the fuel scarcity, and how it actually made a lot of people constrained, and and all of that. I want to point out that yesterday I had the privilege of talking to a few commuters, road transport workers, and drivers, as well as fuel management, filling stations, and all of that. I saw the long queues in filling stations yesterday, and even today. This has been going on for 1 week now because of fuel scarcity. And people have had to join queues for as much as 3 a.m. As at the time I was having that interaction with them, it was about 12 p.m. And people say, they've been on the queue for 3 a.m. Someone is saying, for a whole day. I've been here since, yesterday, not just this morning. And we have people who've been there since 3 a.m. And so imagine transport workers, drivers and the rest having to join that queue. It means that aside from the fact that pump price has increased in some filling stations and black market sell as far as 1,000 naira and over 1,000 naira as well. Speaking to these commercial drivers, they say that it has posed as a challenge for them because they can't go to work because they don't have fuel and they have to join these long queues. So they're not even when you hear the exorbitant amount they call for transport fares now, they're not even costing because of fuel alone, because of pump price and all that, but because of the long queues and the means they have, the ways they've had to go through to get fuel in their vehicles. So they're counting their pain, they're counting the hours of unproductivity, and they're saying that a place that will usually take you to for maybe 1,000 naira or thereabouts, they'll take you for more, maybe 2,000 naira or 3,000.
Because they're also responding to the reality.
So it's not just about fuel, the increase in fuel. It cuts across everything because cost of food as well. It's affecting food because food has to be transported. People are putting transportation is a major factor for everything. You're conveying whatever it is you're conveying, goods, services. You are using a means
for ladies who go to salon, for example, when they have to give you services in Jane, they're not going to charge you the normal fee. I mean, they're not going to present you the normal charge, I guess, because whatever you were paying 3,500 for, maybe by now it's like 5,000 or even higher, because the lady is telling you, I no longer run my salon on public power, is now on generator. I mean, I can speak for guys who go to salon every once in a while, maybe once in 2 weeks, and you get there and the guy tells you, in fact, you can hear the sound of the gen already. So we don't even need to have a lecture on that. But just to lend credence to what you're saying, it's sad. I saw the report that you did, and I was very fascinated by one thing. First, the queue. That didn't surprise me because I think I grew up into a queue kind of system as far as assessing fuel is concerned. But what fascinated me was the fact that I saw young men with gallons, obviously peddling fuel around the place. And then you're wondering, how do they get there as the so-called black market guys vending fuel around the same people who were queued up? Some of those guys, you need to understand, got there as early as 4 a.m. just to get a head start. Some of them, I know for a fact, because I often close late, they queue up the night before the morning. So they are queuing up at about 8, 9 o'clock in the evening towards the next morning, so that by the time service opens up, they are in front of the queue, that sort of thing. So when people have gone through that kind of gruesome experience, you obviously don't expect them to come back and be charging you the same. Just a while ago, you, myself, and another colleague were talking about how that these days commercial drivers throw tantrums. Do we blame them? I mean, it's called external stimuli. So people will naturally respond to the things that bite them, so to say. But whether or not we're ready to solve this problem is one of the conversations we're going to be having on many of our programs going forward. And
then when we talk about fuel scarcities and filling stations, particularly the Nigerian National Petroleum,
the mega filling stations,
mega filling stations.
Yes.
Let us be fair. We're talking about implementing policies where there's fairness and all of that, where the people at the forefront have to do so that we can emulate them rightly. But speaking to these people, these commuters who have, joined long queues just so that they can get fuel, slept as much as 3 a.m. the previous day just so that they can get fuel. And then they are staying there till 12 p.m. the following day, and then we have government officials. Not like government officials. Now, this is a question I'm going to pose. If government officials should be given exemption because of their special duties, of course. But can we create an avenue or a channel where they get their own fuel?
Exclusive of the conventional channel?
Yes. Or maybe it could be conveyed to them or something. Just a way they can get their fuel. So that we don't have, because now we don't even know who is a government official, who is not a government official.
Everybody's blaring sirens.
Yes, their sirens and get into the filling station and get fuel. And then people who have been there for hours, are there for that long period of time, unproductive hours, just to get fuel, and at the end of the day,
and then you cut the queue and get in front of them.
You cut the queue and get in front of them. So can we even do things orderly? Let there be, a way that we can go about it so that it doesn't look like we're being,
I think we must have to take responsibility for the kind of society we want to have. I think most times what I see with us as people is we crave the right things. Everybody wants to have an egalitarian society. Everybody wants to have a system where you come to queue, even the president has to queue. There was a picture that went viral one time, many years ago before COVID struck the world. It was a picture of David Cameron, former British Prime Minister, how that he was on a train, They had, all the seats had been taken. He had no choice than to stand like a civil servant who had just left work at 4 p.m. in Nigeria, reading his paper, paying real attention. And every other regular Briton who was on that train sat. The point being made at that, with that picture was that, first, he was a first come, first served arrangement. So there's nothing like Prime Minister or Member of Parliament or anything. Once you come, if there's a seat, you take it. If there's no seat, you stand. That's number one. Number two is to say that the man didn't have to fight anybody because that's the system he also grew up into. So it raises the question of what kind of system are we creating? It's cheap to talk, but how many of us exemplify these things? Live by the example. I know how you are at a bank, for instance, you're waiting to cash a check or you're waiting to get service. And then one guy from nowhere hurries into the same banking hall, speaks vernacular with the lady who's attending to everybody on the queue, including pregnant women, nursing mothers, elderly people on that same queue. Just because the person has spoken your language, just because the person was in your class in university, because the person was someone you met while you were doing your NYC, and you bring them right in front of the queue and you attend to them. And then tomorrow, the same officer turns around and tells us we are supposed to have an orderly system. You see, in leadership, the part of leadership that's difficult is not title. It's not the position. It is the example. Like you said, when NNPC came, a lot of persons heaved a sigh of relief because they thought, okay, this will set an example for other, the independent marketers to follow. At least they'll know how it should be done and things like that. But what we have seen most times is more of the rowdiness. I mean, you find people who come in with all law enforcement agents, and they are constituting nuisance most times. And the field attendants most times are also helpless. What do you expect? The man comes with 2 mobile policemen brandishing rifles, I mean assault rifles, and you expect him to not fear for his life, because the next thing you hear now is stray bullets, accidental discharge, somebody dies, life moves on. Because if somebody dies at that filling station, from what we have seen over time, service will still be given to people. Business as usual will continue.
We've had cases where somebody died in the filling station.
Exactly. Did they shut down the filling station?
No, of course the filling station is still running, where he was challenging a uniform personnel.
Yes.
And all of these things, so that we can avoid temptations. We don't stir up unnecessary
avoidable problems
amongst people, because people have been, you don't want to imagine the pain they've been trying to get fuel all the while, hours, long hours on the queue trying to get fuel, and then somebody comes in, you know, and then you don't do it in a way that, and sometimes we just come in to show that, you know, can't you see that?
You can't say I have 2 mobile policemen, I have a soldier with me,
and all of that. And so people would go, especially now that aside from the cost of fuel, the cost of food, every other thing is biting hard, and people are agitated, they are paying. So any little opportunity they get, they flare up, you know,
because they want to vent,
damning the consequences. So that's how hard people are being pushed to the wall. And so we must tread carefully, especially if you're a government official. You don't walk into the filling station like that. Maybe you're not even on your uniform, you're not in uniform or anything, because you know the field attendants and all of that. So let's do things orderly. People will flare up. The young man that died in the filling station was challenging a uniform personnel, and then they shot him right there and there.
And now Nigerians are moved on.
Yes, while I understand that people are pained amidst the fear situation, let us also know that. Let us be aware of our surrounding, aware. Let us try to, you know, contain our anger. You know, it's difficult, our pain. But because if anything happens, that young man has died and he's gone forever, you know. But you will live past that moment. Know that you eventually get through. I'm sure the rest of the people, despite the fact that someone came in, cut corners, got in the queue, got filled, the rest of the people later got filled.
Yeah.
Looking at how long it took, I know, I understand, but let us try to contain our anger, knowing that we can air our disagreements, we can air our grievances without having to be physical or go physical or you know, flare up in a manner that would disrupt the activities of other people. So let us try to, knowing that that moment, if anything happens, you would suffer for it, and it could be lifetime. You may not die. You could inflict a lifetime injury on yourself, or go through something that will cost you more money, more time, and more resources. So, but in all, let everybody do things accordingly
and take responsibility for their actions.
That's
right. Well, thank you, Queen. We understand it will appear from all we know today that the market value, as it is, of Victor Osimhen, a world-renowned striker, proud Nigerian, is dropping for many reasons. I mean, a couple of factors responsible. That's again, some people have tried to marry with his feud with a former manager of the Super Eagles, Finidi George, who happens to be his far senior colleague. While there's a lot of cruise catching going on in that regard on social media, I want to join Anthony Momodu to bring you a wrap-up of sports.
Ademola Lookman wrapped up a hat-trick of goals in the Europa League final, firing a screamer into the top right corner of the net to seal a 3-0 victory for his side against Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen. According to Squire Carr, the former Charlton and Everton star gave Atlanta a 3-0 lead in the match and became the first player to score a hat-trick in a single-leg UEFA Cup or Europa League final. His third strike was perhaps the best of the bunch, with Lookman receiving the ball on the edge of the Leverkusen penalty area before putting his head down, driving into the box and unleashing a thumping left-footed strike into the top corner of the goal. Budapest will host the Champions League final for the first time in the city's history in 2026. It has been confirmed by UEFA. UEFA have today reviewed the locations of European competitions in 2026 and 2027. The big news was that Hungary hosting the Champions League final in 2026 at the Puskás Arena, which holds a capacity of 67,215 people. However, there has been a delay over the decision for the 2027 Champions League showpiece. UEFA are waiting information from the Italian Football Federation over refurbishment plans for the San Siro Stadium in Milan. Arsene Wenger is reportedly set to move forward with his radical proposal to amend the offside rule after positive trials. The former Arsenal boss, now FIFA's chief of global football development, first discussed his idea to introduce the daylight principle of offsides in 2020. This would mean that a player is onside if any part of their body that can score a goal is behind or level with the relevant defender. The proposition was backed by FIFA President Gianni Infantino, who said he was certainly in favor of discussing a new way of looking at the offside rule. This led to trials in Sweden, Italy and the Netherlands, which according to the Times have convinced the 74-year-old to press ahead with the proposing a change to the sports law-making body, the International FA Board. Wenger is reportedly keen to adopt the new law as swiftly, but it is likely to face pressure for trials at more senior levels. In-demand Ipswich manager Kieran McKenna is set to reject the offer of a new deal from the club, according to reports. McKenna has taken the Tractor Boys back to the Premier League following successful and successive promotions since taking over as manager in December 2021. A number of Premier League clubs have expressed interest in appointing the 38-year-old whose contract or Portman Road runs until 2027, with the likes of Chelsea, Brighton, looking for managers. He has been linked with both clubs, with his future far from certain as Ipswich look to been planning for life back in the top flight. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
With every government and introduction of new policies, businesses of all kinds and sizes seize the opportunity to evolve and redefine themselves. Business Point on global television is where we follow the money and put the facts and figures right in front of you. Watch Business Point every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. as Kikelamo Okeri tracks all the latest developments across critical sectors. Business Point. This is business.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Uyi Agbomofuegbe. Nigerians have called on the federal government to find a way to put a stop to the recurrent issue of fuel scarcity in the country. The call follows increased long queues at fuel stations occasioned by scarcity. Ogochukwu Mobuno has details for us.
Fuel stations have in the past few days been characterized by long queues and weary drivers, with pump price ranging between 710 naira and 800 naira in the Federal Capital Territory and other parts of the country. Following the current increase in pump price, individuals and commercial drivers lament over the loss of long productive hours wasted on queues trying to get fuel.
Make this government, Excellency Tonumbu, make him look out of this thing when they do for get as it be.
Sometime last year, there was flood that was the problem why we had fuel scarcity in Abuja. And then I'm sure that they saw the problem coming, but it could have been mitigated, but they didn't do anything about it. We shouldn't be having that kind of issue in this present time, this 2024.
I still don't understand why there's scarcity. Now, as you can see, we queued here for hours now, and the so-called military and police people have been the one entering from the out gate, filling their tanks and leaving us here, which is very wrong.
Worried about the resultant effect of the scarcity, which will in the long run affect the price of food and cost of transportation, some persons are beckoning on the government to bring back subsidy.
This fuel subsidy, where they remove, where they return them back. The more fuel add, the more everything increase in Nigeria. There's nothing come down.
Yes, I've been here since 3 a.m. to queue. For me, the government should ensure that there's availability of fuel, even though it is increased, so that people can get it.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, which is the sole importer of petroleum, attributes the lingering fuel scarcity to adverse weather conditions, which has affected berthing of jetties, truckloads out, and transportation of products in filling stations, causing a disruption in station supply logistics. Reacting to the scarcity of fuel and the difficulties that follows, Nigerians are urging the federal government to take decisive measures to put an end to fuel scarcity in Nigeria. From Global Television News, I am Ogochukwu Mobuno.
Thank you so very much, Ogochukwu, for that reporting there. Nigerians have raised concerns over the recent Samoa agreement signed by the federal government over what they consider disguised efforts to erode the country's moral values in exchange for Western loans. Edikon Michael completes the report. We'll have that story for you in our later bulletin. But let's turn to other stories quickly. President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Professor Emmanuel Sodoke, says a strike is not imminent if the federal government implements the agreements reached within the next 2 weeks. The union had threatened to embark on strike over the non-implementation of agreements reached with the federal government. Minister of Education, Professor Tahiru Maman, on June 26, invited the union for a meeting to deliberate on the lingering issues affecting universities and to avert the planned strike. President Bola Tinubu has eulogized late Sarajuddin Ayilara, a former permanent secretary and liaison officer of Lagos Lodge in Abuja. In a personal tribute, the president recalled their time working together in Lagos State, where Ayilara served as director of the Abuja Liaison Office and later as permanent secretary, excelling in protocol and administration. The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Anambra State Command, says it has deployed personnel across the state to protect critical national and state assets as part of efforts to prevent a breakdown of law and order. Anambra State Commandant of the Corps, Maku Olatunde, stated this in Awka, the state capital, while monitoring the deployment of personnel for its renewed launch operations to encourage economic and commercial activities, as well as combat the effects of Monday's sit-at-home. Olatunde described it as a proactive move focusing on banks, financial institutions, parks, schools, government offices, and potentially vulnerable plants in certain public trusts and response to security breaches. Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf says his government will not tolerate any group suspected to be promoting and advocating for lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender rights in the state. The governor's directive came in the face of rising tensions over the activities of groups allegedly promoting same-sex marriage in the state. State Commissioner for Information, Baba Dantiye, says the state government will not accept any agreement that promotes the activities of gays and lesbians as it contravenes the norms and values of the people of Kano and breaches the state's moral standards. The federal government, through the National Senior Secondary Education Commission, says it is considering exchange programs for senior secondary school students in Nigeria. Executive Secretary of the Commission, Dr. Iyela Ajayi, noted that the exchange programs will take the form of academic exchanges that allow students to experience different educational environments, participate in joint projects, and build international networks and cultural exchanges in order to promote cultural understanding and global citizenship. These programs, it says, include short-term exchanges, summer camps, and virtual exchange opportunities. The Nigerian Education Loan Fund has announced that students enrolled in 36 state-owned tertiary institutions can apply for student loans starting Sunday, July 7, 2024. The fund stated that management of the institutions has successfully submitted their student data to the student verification system. The fund urged all other state-owned tertiary institutions to promptly submit their complete student data to its student verification system to ensure their students can benefit from the loan scheme. A devastating flood has ravaged Cargo Village in Garki local government area of Jigawa State, displacing residents and destroying properties worth millions of naira. Residents of the village who said they were caught unawares by the heavy rain noted that the flood also contaminated their sources of water, adding that many residents were forced to seek shelter at nearby hospitals and schools. Cargo Village head Ali Mensara described the situation as serious, saying many residents had lost their livelihoods. The suggestion by the chairperson of the House of Representatives Committee on Health, Amos Magaji, that Nigeria's university teaching hospitals should be privatized has been condemned by Nigerians, including the leadership of the country's labor unions. The lawmaker representing Zangon Kataf Jaba Federal Constituency of Kaduna State made the suggestion when he visited Ahmadu Bello Teaching Hospital in Zaria, Kaduna State. Magaji was reacting to the challenges of underfunding as reflected in infrastructural decay, overstretched facilities, poor power supply, and acute shortage of personnel facing all the tertiary hospitals scattered across the country. Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has reiterated that the Nigerian Army is committed to total elimination of all forms of insecurity bedeviling the country. General Lagbaja disclosed this during the grand finale of this year's Nigerian Army Day celebration at the 3 Division of the Nigerian Army Rukuba Barracks Jos in Plateau State. The police in Enugu State have spoken on the reported attempt by some unidentified men to harvest organs of 2 women in a hotel in the state. In a statement, the police spokesperson in Enugu, Daniel Undukwe, said a preliminary investigation has shown that the suspects forcefully and fraudulently demanded money from the victims and that it was not a case of attempted murder or harvest of organs. Undukwe stated, however, that the investigation also showed that the victims were commercial sex workers who had been with the suspects earlier on Wednesday in another hotel along Agbani Road in the state. You're watching the live broadcast of the Global AM News coming to you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using the handle at Global TV NG and the others as you now see showing on your screen. When the news returns, federal government approves 150 billion naira duty-free window for importation of maize, rice, and wheat. We have these and more stories for you behind this short break. We encourage you to stay with us. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
This is Global Television bringing you a live broadcast of the Global AM News. Thank you very much for your time with us. Now let's take you to the foreign scene where the United States troops have withdrawn. They are based in Niger's capital of Niamey and will fully depart from Agadez in the north before a September 15 deadline set by the country's military rulers. Niger's military leaders crafted a military cooperation deal with Washington in March after seizing power in a July 2023 coup. The U.S. had around 650 soldiers in Niger as part of anti-jihadist missions in several Sahel nations of West Africa, including a major drone base near Agadez. Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has warned that the region faces disintegration after the military rulers of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso cemented a breakaway union. The three countries formed what they have called Confederation of Sahel States at a meeting on the eve of the Economic Community of West African States Leaders Summit, marking another test for the bloc they declared they were splitting from earlier this year. ECOWAS is already wrestling with sweeping jihadist violence, financial trouble, and challenges mastering a regional force. Chinese President Xi Jinping has told Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban that world powers should help Russia and Ukraine restart direct negotiations during a visit to Beijing, branded a peace mission by the European leader. Orban's trip to China comes a day before NATO is due to hold a summit to mark its 75th anniversary, with setbacks in Ukraine set to dominate discussions. It follows surprise visits by the Hungarian premier to Russia and Ukraine in the past week. The federal government has approved a 150-day duty-free window to allow the importation of maize, husked brown rice, and wheat as part of measures to combat rising food inflation in the country. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, disclosed this in a press statement as part of the implementation of the Presidential Accelerated and Stabilization Advancement Plan. According to the report, the federal government hopes to quell the food security problem in the next 180 days through a granting of 150-day import window for certain food commodities, while the federal government will import 250,000 metric tons of wheat and maize to fill the depleted strategic grain reserve. And in business, fuel scarcity is gradually resurfacing in Abuja and other parts of the country as private depot owners hiked ex-depot price of petrol from 630 naira to 720 naira per litre. This comes as fuel scarcity deepened in Abuja and the adjoining states, with some filling stations dispensing PMS as high as 900 naira per litre. A national vice president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Ahmed Fashola, said many filling stations did not open for business because they had no fuel in their tanks. Federal Ministry of Finance has introduced new regulations that include significant tax exemptions for games, reality show winnings aimed at promoting entrepreneurship, academics, technology, and scientific innovation. These exemptions, effective October 1, 2024, apply to winnings from games of chance and reality shows specifically designed to foster these areas, according to a copy of the document. Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, Dr. Doris Suzoka Anite, says the Informal Economy Report 2024 has indicated that businesses in the informal market contributed over half of Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP). The minister, who said this when she inaugurated the report in Abuja, noted that the unregistered businesses include street vendors, artisans, and service providers. And now let's get some excitement from sports. Kebbi Beach Soccer Club has emerged winners of the 2024 Nigeria Beach Soccer League, highlighting their dominance of the domestic game by winning their third title of the three-year-old event. The Kebbi club claimed the title clinically as the Super 4 tournament came to a fitting end in Kaduna. The weekend success saw the Kebbi claim the title for a record 3 consecutive times in 4 editions, an eloquent testament to their astonishing skills and extraordinary dedication. Quite a sterling outcome there. But let's look elsewhere now. Ahead of their participation in the women's football event of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, the Super Falcons have held their first training session in their Seville camp. The games will be held from July 26 to August 11 as Nigeria are reuniting to the women's football event since they last featured in 2008. The Super Falcons camp opened in Spanish City on Friday but did not hold any training sessions on Sunday due to the small number of players in camp. Minister of Sports Development, Senator John Eno, says the ministry will support from the Nigeria Olympics Committee and other relevant sports federations will put final touches to Team Nigeria's preparation plans for the upcoming Paris 2024 Olympics. Eno highlighted the extensive efforts being made to ensure that Team Nigeria is well prepared to compete for honors at the prestigious global event. The sports minister emphasized the importance of pre-Olympic camping for athletes to concentrate, fine-tune, and have a serene environment devoid of distractions. And that's all we have for you for the Global AM News this morning. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. The rest of Global Morning will continue shortly. Thank you. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on Global Televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
With every government and introduction of new policies, businesses of all kinds and sizes seize the opportunity to evolve and redefine themselves. Business Point on Global Television is where we follow the money and put the facts and figures right in front of you. Watch Business Point every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. as Kikelamo Okere tracks all the latest developments across critical sectors. Business Points. This is business.
Are you ready to be entertained like never before? Get ready to dive into the latest and greatest entertainment news in lifestyle, music, movies, birthday celebration, and so much more. All on Entertainment Circle on Global Television. From the hottest red carpet event to exclusive interviews with your favorite stars, we've got you covered. Stay up to date with the latest trends and news from the entertainment world, all in one place. Tune in every Saturday by 1 p.m. with Chung Animal Joseph on Global Television.
In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first. Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumaine Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and a repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momadou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Hello, children. Gather around, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the because
that this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on Global Televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
With every government and introduction of new policies, businesses of all kinds and sizes seize the opportunity to evolve and redefine themselves. Business Point on Global Television is where we follow the money and put the facts and figures right in front of you. Watch Business Point every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. as Kikelamo Okeri tracks all the latest developments across critical sectors. Business Point, this is business.
Are you ready to be entertained like never before? Get ready to dive into the latest and greatest entertainment news in lifestyle, music, movies, birthday celebration, and so much more, all on Entertainment Circle on Global Television. From the hottest red carpet event to exclusive interviews with your favorite stars, we've got you covered. Stay up to date with the latest trends and news from the entertainment world, all in one place. Tune in every Saturday by 1 p.m. with Chung Animal Joseph on Global Television.
In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first. Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumai Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and they repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
For an
Many thanks for staying with us. Well, it's time for us to bring the papers for you. And we'll be beginning with the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. The big story on the Daily Trust newspaper says, pressure mounts on federal government to release Nnamdi Kanu. Rider says only one option available after political agreement, says Yadudu. Above, just underneath the nameplate, we have MPC proposes November 2024 for national census. Sultan and NSCIA cautions political leaders against Muslim traditional rulers. Again, bandits kill 1 and abduct 22 in Katsina. Federal government plans waivers on rice, wheat, and others. And we also have Nigerian content creators eye Facebook's 150,000 naira per 10,000 views. Sheikh Dahiru Bauchi clocks 100 years. Lastly, we have on the Daily Trust newspaper, man climbs mast, threatens suicide over hardship. So yesterday, I did see that video where a man climbed a broadcast mast, the top of it, and was threatening, to commit suicide if, subsidy is not brought back, fuel subsidy is not brought back, if the prices of food items do not come down and prices are not regulated, if transportation fare, basically if the hardship is not mitigated, he's going to jump and commit suicide. And then they were pleased. I think I later heard that he came down eventually. And somebody was even threatening and telling him that if you spoil anything there and you die, your family will pay for it on that mast and all of that. But the different angles I want us to take to this particular story. But let me say that, first of all, I understand that the hardship is hard.
Biting real hard.
Biting really hard, and everybody can tell. The rich, the poor, the middle. We have middle classes. So we argue that we don't have middle class.
It's almost completely eroded. Right.
Yes. So, but everybody, literally everybody, is crying for ease amidst the economic hardship that we face, and then because of how hard people are pressured, it's more like they can't take it anymore. They are suffocated, and so they would go at any length. I'm not saying that this man here just did what he did. He must have been psychologically tortured somehow as to the hardship. I can imagine a family man looking at your children not being able to put food on their table, or not being able to predict, how much they're going to take to school today. Because look at transportation, for example. I pity school children, and we're in the rainy season. So you can't give your children a certain amount of money and say this will take you to school for today, because anything can happen. Transportation prices have gone up. And then this man climbs a mast. And for the most part of it, when I did read the story, he happens to be a broadcaster that works for a radio station. So he did climb. So it's only fair to say that, okay, he was doing maybe averagely well, fair enough, as opposed to someone who works in the streets, doesn't have a stable source of income. So what the circumstances that
could have pushed him that far?
That must have pushed him, that must have driven him to climb the mast and threaten to kill himself. For you to take, the mast is as high as you can imagine. And then no right-thinking person would just decide to climb the mast for clout, or just to stay there and say, oh, it must have been, it's unreasonable to say that because you're up there, the prices of things will come down at an instance, or things will change just because you're up there. But it just shows that people are getting to that point where they can no longer think. They are pushed so hard that, they just want immediate ease. And then we have people who, when people do those things, the angle I'm taking it from now again is, we understand that things are hard, but let us try. Suicide is not the option. If anybody dies, what happens to the fate of your children and all of that? The hardship will still be there. We can only hope and advocate for good governance. For example, there's a peaceful protest going on. Join the peaceful protest. We can look for other avenues to air our grievances and all of that. And then again, if you die, the issues will still be there, your family will still be there. Worse off, it will even become more difficult for them because you as the breadwinner is out of the picture. Now let us talk about sensitivity to issues like this. When people, I saw a video where a woman was up on a bridge in Lagos and was threatening to come down, you know, and the people were making joke of, you know, when you're tired, you get down. You know, she was complaining that she can't.
But this was a life and death issue.
Life and death issue. She was up there. People have gone beyond. It's not even about, oh, I just want to climb there to make news or make wave. No, it's biting hard. And then when we find people in such situation, the least we can do is plead and beg them. Or maybe find a way to get them therapy, get them counseling. Because they didn't just climb there because they want to climb there. And people were laughing about it and saying, if you know, what are you still waiting for? And this woman jumped down and died instantly. So the area where someone was saying that if anything falls in that mass, I know that it is selfish for you to have climbed a mass that is supposed to serve, you know, that purpose, and you know, you're threatening to kill yourself and all that. You could disrupt a lot of things on that mass. I understand that, but we can only be diplomatic in such situations where we try to get the victim or the person, whoever it is that is there, to come down to a stable, because at that point you assume that no right thinking person will climb a mass. Yes. So you want to appeal to their sense of reasoning so that they can calm down, and then if possible we can arrest them, but give them therapy and then arrest them, because that's self.
Ultimately they should stay alive.
Ultimately they should stay alive, and we don't want to have people committing suicide for this.
Quite sad.
And there's a story here on the federal government planning waivers on rice,
wheat and others.
And I heard somebody just casually say, is it only rice and corn we would eat? Can we?
Well, what more can I say? I think it cycles back to 2022 when the campaigns were just starting to heat up. The president, then the candidate of the APC, also had talked about all of these, corn and things like that. But corn is staple for Africa, Nigerians in particular. You can't take that away. And then, of course, again, because there are several byproducts you can get from it, and it's not a luxury food, as it were, so it easily comes in the bag. Corn, rice, wheat, and things like that. But overall, we also need to look beyond that. It's like saying bread, loaf of bread I used to sell for, let's say, 800 naira is now 1,600, for example. And then people say bread has gone up in terms of price. Then by the time there's a downward review, maybe it now comes down to, let's say, 1,100. People say, bread is now cheaper, I'll buy 500 naira a loaf. And then somebody's going to ask you, is it only bread that Nigerians eat? But I think it's better to start from somewhere than to be stuck at nowhere.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then I think we should be able to consider pursuing products to the very end. For example, let's not just be farmers of maize, corn and all of that, and then we end up importing corn flour and other byproducts of these products, so that because this is what we see happen. We have such vast resources, farmlands and all of that, cocoa and all that, but we still import.
We're not maximizing them.
Yes, we still import. So we should be able to, that's the area we should be, we should focus on, the government should focus on in the agricultural value chain, to see to it that we produce finished products, end products here, corn flour, cocoa, Bonvita, and those end products that we usually would import here. It's only fair for us to be that, to have such resources and then finish it to the end, instead of having to import yam flour. We farm yam we have plantations, all of the plantations that you can think of, and still we're getting plantain chips from the abroad, and then we're selling in our market. So it would enrich our economy and grow our GDP. I think our next point of call will be after the Daily Trust will be the Guardian.
Yeah, let's look at the Guardian.
The graphics happens to be your favorite.
Yes, I think the Daily Trust just found a way to follow suit this morning with the Nnamdi Kanu timeline. But the Guardian is not to be standard for this kind of infographics. But let's bring you the star story here real quick. 2023 budget performance outlook. Unfunded deficit hits 1 trillion naira in 9 months, worsens FG's fiscal position. You can see the graph there, debt service, recurrent expenditure, capital expenditure. Of course, capital expenditure is considered the most vital component of the budgetary structure. Then, of course, you have revenue. We understand at the point, the bulk of the revenue came from taxation, not even from oil, ironically. Maybe we can replicate same with agriculture. Maybe we can do same with service. All right, with tech. It just depends on how much we want to think out of the box, how much we want to stretch ourselves and our imagination ultimately. Okay, ex-generals task FG on new wage demand, cuts in governance costs to avert crisis. Are we listening to that call? That's another conversation altogether. A 72-year-old man backs life jail for defiling minor. We just hope this sort of stories will cease coming through our news dailies. Obi urges anti-graft agencies to focus on grand theft. Grand theft. There's a game called Grand Theft Auto. All right, but again, the call being made by the candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election is not a game. All right, because we must keep the main thing the main thing. We understand that, yes, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has been doing a whole lot of work with regards to fishing out internet fraudsters and all of those who are exploiting the internet for fraudulent purposes. However, like Peter Obi is saying here, we have institutional fraud still waiting to be resolved, still being a big hurdle in our way to dealing with grant corruption or graft. NNPCL, Ipman blame private depots logistics for scarcity. What's more, fear over illicit flow to banks as shareholders struggle with rights issues. Students' loan, NANS gives tertiary institutions 48 hours to submit data. Man climbs mast to protest economic hardship in Abuja. This actually came very close to home. It's in Abuja, not even somewhere else. All right, but Queen and I already talked about that just a while ago. So it takes us to the Daily Independent newspaper.
On the front page of the Daily Independent, big story, federal government rolls out measures to crush high food prices, suspend taxes on importation of food commodities to import 250,000 metric tons of wheat, 250,000 metric tons of maize. Above the nameplate, court bars Rivers CJ from accepting pro-Wike lawmakers' resolution. And then APC has done well. Current station is global, according to party's governor. Residents groan as fuel scarcity persists in Abuja and Lagos. NNPC blames development on flooding and logistics challenges. Rivers crisis. I'm not ungrateful, Governor Fubara clarifies as he queries stakeholders declare support for governor. Zenith Bank wins double awards at World Finance 2024. Okay. We have court adjourns El Rufai's suit against Kaduna Assembly till July 17th. 2 dead, 18 rescued in Jigawa boat mishap. These are the stories that we have. But on the statement from the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Company, that the reason for this development, the fuel scarcity that we have, would be flooding and logistics challenges. We've had, I think last year, when we had fuel scarcity like this, it was attributed to flooding as well, and then their logistics as well. I've seen videos where trailers are falling into water, flooded streets because of bad roads. Yes, trailers conveying goods of different sorts are falling into these roads, and then some trailers cannot move as a result of the road. But I expect that by now, if we have a system where we look at our performances year on year, or on a monthly basis, or even weekly, if we do proper assessment, we should be able to pick out challenges like this. What were our major constraints last year? what were the factors that made us have such constraints? What were the challenges? How can we go about it? How do we ensure that there's never a repeat of such occurrences again? Because last year, same challenge, it was attributed to flooding and logistics. This year, knowing that we're getting into the rainy season and movement of maybe fuel and petroleum products will be difficult, can we devise a means? Maybe transport earlier, certain commodities, storage facilities. How do we ensure that we don't have such challenges again? Because it's only foolish for us to continue. And next year we're going to get into the rainy season.
So are we proactive enough?
Are we proactive enough so that there's never a repeat again? Nigerians don't have to cry out like this or face this hurdle again and again, because it only makes sense for us to, having conquered this challenge now or face this challenge now and get through it, not have to face it again next year. What is the guarantee that we're not going to talk about fuel scarcity again and blame the development on flooding and logistics again?
Right.
So do we have a committee where we're talking about, okay, what can we do to ensure that if we have to transport earlier than the rainy season, ensure that we have enough commodities on ground so that Nigerians are, because it is even difficult to come and put the cost of fuel to the current hardship that we face, or having to join long queues and disrupt movements of activities of people and businesses as well. So those are the papers we have.
From the leadership, right?
The stories we have on the front page of the
leadership. Okay, so it takes us to the Nation newspaper.
No, we are going to the leadership now.
The leadership newspaper, everyone, yes. The leadership, quite a number of headlines on the front page of it. But let's begin with the ones above the name mast quickly for you. One here with a picture of President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says Nas Mal's death penalty for vandals of national assets. That's becoming an embarrassment to look at the rail track in Nigeria, for example. Of course, power installation, look at oil installation. Of course, when you hear that we lose hundreds of thousands of barrels of crude every day, part of the reason, in fact, one of the fundamental reasons is on account of vandalism that goes on. In fact, you can't talk about the loss of crude in Nigeria oil industry and not mention vandalism. It's near impossible. So I'm not so sure of death penalty, but whatever we must do within the ambit of the law to address these issues, we've got to do them, because it's one thing for us to complain that the government is not doing X, Y, Z in certain areas. But what happens when the government does things about these issues, makes efforts, measurable efforts at that to resolve these issues? And you just find some persons who are sabotaging government efforts on a systematic, on a regular basis, in a way that is systematic from one government after another. It looks like we're putting money putting water in baskets, all right? And if we do that, it means that we will not make progress. We just only have motion at best. So whatever we have to do, but then the lawmakers themselves must be on the same page regarding this. They must bring patriotism to this kind of deliberation as well, okay? Stakeholders caution FG over ban on used vehicles importation. Are we still having this conversation? Bandits in the Hijab kidnapped 25 persons in Katsina. Fuel scarcity, NNPCL marketers pass the buck as queues spread. What are the three riders there? The first one says, motorists stranded, black marketers flood Abuja streets. Well, I saw some this morning. Maybe we can also did on our way here. A supply portal down. We can't make order. Petron, as one of the associations in the industry. NNPCL blames logistics challenges, flooding for scarcity. Well, Nigerians are no longer interested in the complaints and discussions about the problems, the solutions that people are looking for. Now, there are some persons who live in areas that are very vulnerable to flooding, but that won't be an excuse for them not to come to work. All right, so let's cut down the excuses and move into action. We need to roll up our sleeves as a country. Northern elders, youths condemn kidnap of journalists. INI escapes from Jos Wildlife Park. That doesn't sound like some good story now, because that will likely find its way to residential areas, or at least areas where you have a human presence, and that already is a potential danger in itself. Falling trees kill 4 at Edo Market. That's a market in a town called Jatu in Edo North part of the state. That's Isako West local government area. We understand 4 persons died when trees fell, and some persons are now saying that it's a shame that for years that particular senatorial district does not have a standard market. Well, most times, as we have seen in this country, as sad as it sounds, until something drastic happens, we don't seem to take actions. Somebody once said that until a prominent person dies on the road, government doesn't say they need to fix it. That's a shame. It's a bad culture. We need to find a way to deal with it, all right? Islamic Council warns against disrespecting Sultan, but then you can find those details on page 20 of today's issue of the Leadership newspaper, taking us to the Nation going forward.
Now, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, we have big story. Rivers crisis deepens. Rider there says, Amaewule lawmakers issue governor 7-day ultimatum. Fubara inaugurates EXCO member cleared by Oko Jumbo and 2 others. Court bars CJ Clerk from dealing with 27 assembly members. Brace for more flooding. NIMET tells Lagos, Ogun, Osun, Edo, FCT, and others. Above the nameplate, we have contractors get 3 months to fix 260 federal government road projects. Lagos accounts for 104 out of 113 cholera cases in 1 week. We also have 11 Americans discover Nigerian roots at New York Ancestry DNA event. Nigeria Air 26 billion naira investigation. EFCC quizzes Ethiopian Airlines CEO. Nigeria owing us $211,000. Sirica breached agreement. You find that story on page 2 of the Nation. And lastly, we have Ondo shifts council poll infidelity. NSCIA seeks PEP in insecurity battle. These are the stories we have on the front page of the Nation.
Let's turn it around quickly and look at News Direct for you, our next port of call this morning. News Direct, one here above the nameplate, just beneath the nameplate, I should say, has a picture of Governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun. Ogun Roads, previous administration had good intentions but abandoned projects. All right, what's more, 3 days after abduction, Kaduna journalist families still in captivity, no contact established. You know, when we read these things from the pages of the newspaper, we just see them as news. But these are people who have families, they have relatives who care about them, who probably have not had a sleep since the last 3 days they've been away. So these are things that should bog our minds, that should give us sleepless nights, and it will be very, very justifiable. Okay, you have that story, and then you have a few other stories there, including one that talks about let's see what we have there on the front page of the News Direct. Okay, then we have one here that says, Fuel scarcity, NNPCL blames weather for disrupting movements of PMS. Okay, we already talked about that, weather and roads. And then another one here says, Rivers Assembly lawmakers strike back, confronts Fubara over alleged constitutional violations. Of course, we've seen that back and forth between lawmakers loyal to Wike, Minister of FCT, and those who say their loyalty is with the incumbent governor, Siminalayi Fubara. FG suspends tax on rice, maize, other staples. Hopefully, it's the right step in the right direction. Okay, that's basically on the front page of this morning's Punch newspaper. I mean, I should say the News Direct, but I was going to say our next port of call will be the Punch newspaper for you.
On the front page of the Punch newspaper, big story, federal government suspends food import duty, partner states on farming. Government launches 5-month duty-free import window for maize, rice, wheat, and others. Federal government to partner governors, military to cultivate arable lands, support smallholder farmers. Queues spread as petrol hits 1,000 naira per litre in Abuja and others. Marketers awaiting products from NNPC, says Patron. Naira weakens to 1,523 naira per dollar at official market. Human rights, democracy, economic growth, key issues in Samoa agreement. Fubara Court bars Rivers CJ from accepting impeachment notice. Local airlines project 980 naira per litre aviation fuel meets Dangote. And a sad picture there, outrage as Russian missiles kill 33 in Ukraine Children Hospital. These are the stories on the front page of the Punch. This is quite sad that children were killed in a hospital due to the missile from the Russians.
Let's move to other stories. Let's move to our next paper for you. Having taken a look at the Punch,
This Day.
Let's move to This Day newspaper with a big story on the front page of This Day newspaper there. Let's start with the star story. To contain worsening insecurity or worsening food crisis, FG may suspend duties, taxes on certain imports. That story is replicated across papers. Incidentally, this morning has three riders here. Measures aimed to mitigate impacts of reforms may include 150-day duty-free import window, guaranteed minimum prices for commodities. Sounds like regulating prices now. What's more, restocking of national strategic food reserve, Nasima hails move. Above that headline, petrol price soars to 900 naira per litre in Lagos. Others as queues resurface at filling stations. Then that's a headline has two riders accompanying it. Worsens in Abuja, NNPC blames logistics flooding. But Ipman faults NNPC's monopoly, high ex-depot charges. But blame game won't change the situation, apparently. Rivers Pro Wike lawmakers give Fubara 7-day ultimatum to represent 2024 budget. Is that going to happen? Well, I'm not sure. We'll look forward to seeing how this issue will be resolved amicably in the interest of the good people of the great state of Rivers.
Now let's look at the Nigerian Tribune. Big story. Federal government mulls 150-day duty-free import window for food commodities, set to import 500,000 metric tons of maize, wheat, and others to tackle inflation. May suspend duties, tariffs, taxes for importation through land, sea borders. Nasima hauls federal government's decisions. Details in public space not yet formally released, according to presidency. Above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune, flood. NEMA deploys officers to reinforce search rescue nationwide. NIMET predicts 3-day thunderstorms rain across Nigeria. With increased monthly allocations, states should abide by new minimum wage when legislated. Dog eats flesh of girl's head, attacks owner trying to protect victim in Ibadan. I think people should learn to start keeping, not just, people acquire dogs that are not trained. And people should learn to train their dogs well and know the species, the kinds of dogs that, they live in houses and homes. For example, a Rottweiler. You don't leave such dogs around children and you take precautionary measures. It's quite sad that sometimes we know that these dogs could go haywire and act out of its natural behavior or how it should
I'll tell you
behave.
something about dogs. I've been bitten by a dog before, so I know how crazy it can be. It's not just the bite, it's the trauma. It's how that people don't even realize how careless they are with their pets, you want to call them, or, you know, the animals they keep at home. You know, the thing is this: I'm on a sidewalk, for example, and somebody is holding a dog, and it's a sidewalk, and you make it look like the dog is my friend from 20 years ago, and you hear things like, no, you don't have to fret, don't worry, you don't have to run, the dog does not bite, no, the dog doesn't hurt, blah blah blah. I don't take chances, you know, because you see, these are damages you can't reverse. So why don't you avoid it? People should understand that once you have a dog, you have acquired liability. I remember growing up back in the day, a goat came to eat somebody's fish in the kitchen. The owner went straight to the owner of the fish went straight to the owner of the goats and said, "You have two options as I stand now. You either pay for the fish, and this is the amount at which I bought it, or you give me the goat. I'll hold it until you come to pay, and I give it till end of day if you don't come."
I'll use that goat in place of my fish.
You see, you may say that's an over the top reaction, but you see, people must understand that with so much of fun, pleasure comes responsibility as well. It's like saying, I want to be on my own. I want to be able to keep late night and all of that. You have the right to. But you see, right in itself can be a problem if not well managed. It's the same thing with dogs. So when you have dogs, don't say, no, I need to secure my household and all of that. You need to understand that we have had cases where even dogs have attacked their owners. We have had cases where a dog attacks the owner's wife or the owner's children. And these are children that were born in the presence of the dog. The dog is familiar with these children. The dog has always played with these children, even inside their bedroom. So how come all of a sudden the same dog is attacking them? So if it can be that bad on that level, it is only left to our imagination how much worse things can get if we don't rein these dogs in. Yes,
absolutely. I completely agree. We also have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, Ondo Goba, crisis brews in PDP over composition of campaign council. Contradictor, handling Denro Shashi Akute Road must complete job in 2 weeks, according to Abiodun. Also, we have police arrest man who climbed 125th mast to commit suicide over hardship.
So he's finally arrested.
as expected. But I think that he should go through therapy, proper investigations, counseling should be given to him. After that, arrested. Yes, so that he understands the gravity of what he just
did. Yeah.
Yes.
It may be your life, but it has implications for the rest of us.
Yes, for the rest of us. Court bars CJ Clerk from dealing with pro-Wike lawmakers. These are the stories we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, which takes us to our last paper, which is the Vanguard newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Vanguard for you, everyone. Vanguard has a big story where we're starting from quickly. All right, it says FG opts for duty-free import of rice, beans, wheat, other grains. It will impact on inflation. NASIBA, a step in the right direction. CPPE, Farmer Action Aid boss reacts. Okay, let's take it a bit further down. Court bars reverse CJ Clerk from accepting Amewole's impeachment notice. Scarcity, NNPCL blames logistics flooding as petrol queues grow longer. Team Nigeria ready to soar at Paris Olympics. We're excited to hear that. That's the Super Falcons. Then above the name mast, top left end. 72 hours after abduction, fate of Kaduna journalist remains unknown. Again, that's a story that we need to ponder on going into our Tuesday. All right, but then it's where we are leaving it with the papers for you this beautiful Tuesday morning. But the rest of the program, including discussion that borders on the current biting fuel scarcity, and then the second issue focusing on insecurity, particularly as it adversely impacts farming and food sufficiency in our dear country, Nigeria. Do stay with us.
time for sports' biggest moments on global television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodou.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television, getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
I'm joined by Nazir Sunusi, is Global Affairs Analyst and President, West African Law Students Association. Whilst he's here to join the conversation on the current fear scarcity, because I'm sure as a Nigerian resident in the country, he has had maybe a little over, more than his fair share of this experience. And the second issue is for him to wade into the farmer-header clash in the north and how that has bred insecurity in more than 10 years in particular, and the implication it has for the agri sector of this country. Sunusi, it's a pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Lovely to be here. Good morning, viewers.
I'm not going to bother you with how you got here, knowing that the fear scarcity is having its own impact as it stands right now. But let's talk about how that we keep having this recurrence in the way we experience scarcity of petrol.
So, fuel scarcity is a pressing issue.
Mm-hmm.
It is complex and multifaceted. However, for us to address issue of fuel scarcity in Nigeria, we must increase our oil refining capacity.
Right.
The government must invest in refineries and new refineries construction to reduce dependence on imports. We must also address issues of corruption in oil and gas sector. And also we must address infrastructure deficit. So I learned that key stakeholders have identified logistic challenges and flooding as the major factors contributing to the current fuel scarcity. So we urge the relevant stakeholders to do the needful to ensure that we have steady supply of fuel across the country, so that our people will be able to go to their various places of work and find things easily, because we are already having so many issues in these countries. So this should not be allowed at all.
If you look at the papers today, you see Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State. Of course, he was the flag bearer of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election. Now, he's saying that government should look away from small crimes, so to say. I mean, this is me paraphrasing, those are not his exact words. But he categorically mentions that government or the EFCC, anti-graft agencies, should focus on what he calls grand theft. And most people you talk to would say to you, look, grand theft happens for the most part in the oil and gas sector. Just a while ago, you mentioned that corruption is one of the issues that must be tackled in order to avert fuel scarcity. Is it as easy as it sounds? Because there are people who would argue and say that for as long as Nigeria continues to drill oil and sell oil, corruption is here to stay.
Yes, I agree with him. Corruption is incipient in all human, in all aspects of Nigerian society. But our own is so worrisome to the extent that this current administration has no even useless agenda to tackle problem of corruption. We must have robust and strengthen our institution for us to fight against corruption. And fighting against corruption is a continuous process. It's not something that you can win. All over the world, fighting against corruption is something that must continue and is something that must be sustained. So I agree with him that petty crimes all over the world, there is no single country that is free from petty crimes. We must, some of these petty crimes is caused by unemployment, joblessness, poverty, and other menaces in the society. So, but if the government can strengthen our institution to fight the big elephant in the rooms, that would be a great step for us to move forward as a country.
As it stands today, if you look at Nigeria, you realize that we lose so much in terms of crude. I mean, crude loss, occasioned by for the most part by vandals or vandalism. If you look at the news again today, there's a pretty good chance that lawmakers are going to look at the possibility of enacting a law that prescribes a death penalty for vandals. In other words, if somebody is, if an individual is indicted or convicted of vandalism or vandalizing government infrastructure, whether it's in power sector, oil and gas, or rail, they'll be subject to a capital punishment. Is that the way to go to address these issues?
That is not the way to go. Because if you can remember vividly, during late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, that is not the way he approached the issue. The best way to go is to look at the grievances of the host community. After you address the grievances of the host community, you put the enabling infrastructure in that place. You put there is social amenities all over the place. People will be busy. People will not be preoccupied of thinking how to commit or vandalize government property. But when people think that they are the immediate, they are the host community, and there are a lot of activities that are taking place in their locality and they are not part of it, they will be motivated to destroy that or to vandalize that particular infrastructure. So I'm not supporting vandalization. However, the government must address the grievances of its host community. Then they can come up with any law so that they can catch the offenders. I know that even if the government addresses the grievances of the host community, there will be still some individual who will still, because of their criminal mindset, to go and destroy that. But we have problems. This problem is persisting. So we must address the grievances of the host community in those affected areas for us to enact a law that will deal with those that are vandalizing government infrastructure, particularly in oil and gas sector and power sector.
There are people whose position it is that the NNPCL, as we today know it, is too involved in the running of the oil sector. Yeah. They believe, quite frankly, that the NNPCL's role should stop at a regulatory doorstep. In other words, they should have no obligation, no responsibility. In fact, their mandate should not stretch any further than to regulate. But instead, they are involved in the naira and kobo of the industry. So they are saying the NNPCL should, as it were, it should detach itself from anything that has no bearing on regulation. Do you share that sentiment?
Yes, I share that sentiment, because if NNPCL detach itself from regulating the prices of this fuel, we will not be in this mess. it should focus on regulatory so that the private individual will be able to bulk it and sell it, will be able to buy it and sell it at affordable price. So that will bring a lot of correction along the line, because once government involves, so those officials, the middlemen, will use that opportunity to corrupt the system. But if it is a private sector, and if there is a price control, so there will be efficiency and there will not be that corruption, because it is in the hand of the private sector. But there should be a price control where the government sell it at this particular price, and you should not sell it above particular price. So that will be the best way to go.
All right, great. So we're going to take a quick break now, everyone. This is just where we are wrapping it up with our first discussion. When we return with the rest of the program, we'll take a look at our second discussion for you on Global Morning. Do stay with us. We turn to our second conversation this morning, everyone. So, Sunusi, you are not just from the northern part of the country. You were born and raised there. You know a bit of the north, like the back of your hand, if you will. So let's talk about the issue of farmer header clash, which some people will even argue and say it's not farmer header clash, it's just some vested interests who believe the more conflicts they ignite, the more money or the more political advantage they are going to derive and all of that. So let's talk about the situation up north, especially as it has to do with insecurity affecting farming.
So, frankly speaking, issue of insecurity in the northern part of the country is something that is so worrisome and so alarming that every good Nigerians must be worried. So this issue of farmers' headers conflict is something that has been lingering for almost 2 decades or above that. But now it has turned to something else, that is armed banditry. It is no longer farmers' headers clashes, except in some part of North Central. So let us identify the root causes of this issue of insecurity in the northern Nigeria. Firstly, for us to address the issue of insecurity in northern Nigeria, we must address problem of illiteracy, because we are battling with pervasive illiteracy. Most of our youth and children are unable to go to school. So you can easily recruit them into any types of criminal activities. So these criminals that are disturbing us now, they are not the product of today. They were children that were neglected some years back. So now they are turning into something else for their community. And still, because of this current insecurity, so many millions of children are out of school. Hunger everywhere. So if the government is serious, particularly northern governors, they must invest heavily in education sector. They should modernize primary sectors to ensure that our children, our youth, are going to school so that they can get at least a basic education, so that they will think outside the box. Secondly, we must address the problem of poverty. we have endemic poverty in the northern part of the country. People are hungry. So you know that when a person is hungry, you can easily recruit him to do anything for him to survive. Thirdly, we must address issue of unemployment. I know that unemployment is a global issue, but at least if the government is serious, they can. Let me tell you something. You see, agriculture has the potential to significantly alleviate unemployment in Nigeria. So we have a fertile land in northern Nigeria. We have virgin land, and agriculture is the only sector that has the capacity to absorb the unemployed Nigeria, not only in the northern part of the country, but in the entire country. So if the northern government is serious and the federal government is serious to address this issue of insecurity and by extension inflation, they must invest heavily in agriculture, mechanized farming, so that our teeming farmers will be able to access fertilizer easily and other facilities that will enable them to farm. So thirdly, we must tell ourselves the truth. As I said it somewhere else, our problem in Nigeria is not knowledge. We know our problem. And this issue of insecurity, the people that are behind it are not invisible. These bandits, they were well known. They know where they are. So they must tackle this issue. They must approach it. And I even though I love community, I like the idea of community engagement. But for us to address this issue of insecurity, we must apply kinetic approach. Kinetic approach is the best. After we defeat them well, so then we can approach community engagement so that those that are behind them will surrender. So finally on this about the root causes, the government should be bold enough to tell us the invisible hand that is funding these terrorists in the northern part of the country and in the entire country, and who are the international players behind this insecurity in the north. So that is it.
Well, when we talk about education, because you mentioned that, and obviously is a pivotal factor in terms of the triggers for insecurity that you've talked about extensively. But how can we, using your word, invest very massively, very robustly in ways that are strategic in education, particularly in the north? I mean, look at the north. Girl child education is still a debate. Yeah. How do we run circles around such challenges?
Okay, let me tell you. If you go to some communities in northern part of the country, you will find out that there is not a single table inside a classroom, not even a table. Even the roof is not there. So the children are under trees. And once it is rainy season, you will not be able to find at least even 10 children. All of them, they run to their they run to farm. So for us to address, to enhance the quality of education in the northern part of the country and to invest massively, we must prioritize the welfare of the teachers. What is the salary of ordinary primary teachers that in this current reality that he even has the feeling to go to school? Maybe 50,000. How do you think that a teacher that has 3 children, 1 wife or 2 wives, that you are paying him 50,000 and you are expecting him to go to that school? That will not be possible as far as current reality.
But some persons will also say it's not government that asked him to have 2 wives or 3 children. He could have had 1 child and a wife.
Even if you are single, right, there is no any part of this country that you can survive with 50,000.
Even as a single person.
Yes, even if he is a single person. So the government must prioritize the welfare of the teacher, and the federal government can support primary teachers, like in a way of packaging, giving them support even by way of fertilizer or pre-medical care, free access to education to their children and motivate them. After they do that, then issue of posting is another issue. They should not be posted in any place except within their community, because if they are in their community, there are certain individuals who can approach them and tell them the home truth that you are a teacher and you are not going to teach our children. But if, for instance, someone from Garki, you posted him to Gwarimpa, maybe he has to pay 500 naira or 1,000 easy to go to that place. How do you think he will find it easy? So for us to address that issue, posting, he must be posted in his community so that the people in that community know him. There are, even if it is not everybody that can tell him a home truth, I do believe there are certain people that can tell him a home truth that you're supposed to go and teach our children. Then massive rehabilitation and construction of the primary school, so that we will so that the children can have a conducive learning environment. And also feeding is key. They should continue to feed these children, because some of these children, is because of that food they are even coming to the school. So, and also even issue of uniform, they should be giving uniform to the children. Issue of books, let me tell you the truth, some women, because of single pen or pencil, so she will say she does not have the money to give to that particular boy to go and buy that pen. So she would rather send him to go out and look money for her to survive. When I did my primary school, I know they were giving us package of books as then. They are giving us 12, 40 leaves, sometimes even uniform. So this is the best way to address issue of this issue of problem of quality education in northern Nigeria. So the government should invest the uniform, include the textbooks, exercise book. They should be given freely. Our governors now, all the political leaders, all the prominent Nigeria, that is what they enjoy. So our people also, our children, they are entitled to enjoy the same rights. So anything else is just a paying lip service.
You know, when we talk about something like this, I mean, you have talked about education and the necessity of it as part of very important efforts to address the issue of insecurity in the North. But again, it takes our eye often away from state governors to federal governments. From your own assessment, do you think governors in the North, particularly those states that have now become flashpoints, are doing anything close to enough in the bids to address this issue?
They are not doing anything. And I will say it again, because I don't know what they are doing with the monthly allocation, this money the federal government they are giving them, and the internally generated revenue they are getting from the state.
I thought you were going to mention security votes too.
The security vote. So what are they doing with them? Go to the community, go to real communities in northern part of the country. They don't know even government exists. They are just doing conference here and they are saying this and that. They should go and touch the real people, the people that suffered, the people that voted them. So they are not doing anything. Let them. But unfortunately, our people, they don't even care. They don't care. So the governors should be sincere enough to commit the resources of our people to the appropriate channel and invest it massively in agriculture and education sector, so that our children will be able to go to school and be educated and become relevant member of society. Even though we have problem of unemployment, so many, I interacted with so many graduates who are even regretting going to university to waste their poise. But that's still, if you are educated, you will still find life very easy as long as you are hardworking person, you are very consistent. More than a person who hasn't go to any school.
At a point, the idea of a civilian joint task force came up to complement efforts of the conventional military. Do you think that has made any much of difference?
They don't. Even our military personnel does not have the requisite capacity and equipment to deal with this armed bandit, much less, let alone this community police or community police that no, they can. But I'm supporting it in the sense that they can, like a form of intelligence gathering, they can assist the government, the security agencies in giving them the relevant information where these criminals are hiding. So it is a good step, but they don't have the capacity to compete with those armed bandits. So that is
in the Niger Delta, you mentioned late President Musa Yar'Adua of blessed memory, when he came up with the amnesty idea, which is still existing till this moment as we speak on this show. There are people who have called for a similar initiative to be rolled out for quote-unquote repentant terrorists and bandits, kidnappers and what have you in the north. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, there are those who say, no, the circumstances are different. In the first case, they say the agitators in the Niger Delta were actually calling for fairness in the sharing of resources for those communities where the oil itself is domiciled to feel the impact in ways that are remarkably positive. All right. Do you support this idea of rehabilitation for arrested or apprehended terrorists?
I don't support it at all. The only thing that I will support is building boreholes, schools, and other social amenities to all the communities is good. I do believe that doing that will reduce that rate of crime, in the sense that they will find life easily, they have hospital, they have school, they have boreholes. So that is the only thing I will support. There is no way that you arrested a criminal and you just rehabilitated him going back into the society. He must face a full wrath of the law. So that is it.
It's interesting when we say all of this, but again, we also know that the military a lot of times would come out openly and complain, or at least state clearly their own handicaps, challenges that have become obstacles for them as well. We have seen the US, for instance, we've seen Britain, we've seen even France in some cases come to talk about some sort of strategic partnership with Nigeria in a bid to defeat Boko Haram or bandits and so on and so forth. But when you look at places like Zamfara, for instance, there are people who say the gold in those areas will continue to be some sort of, if you like, those reasons for insecurity to continue to be a challenge in those areas, like a trigger, that sort of thing. How do we also mitigate that? Because we keep hearing about illegal miners coming into the system and things like that. The resource itself, that's the mineral itself, or the minerals, are natural, all right? They are embedded underneath the surface, underneath the ground. They are there. And Nigeria will, by all means, have to harness them for our own good as a country. But how do we ensure that while we are smiling to the bank, so to speak, we also don't put lives in danger?
Okay, for us to address that particular problem, we must enhance our border security. Zamfara State is bordering with so many neighboring countries, so criminals will find it easily to enter that particular state. So we must increase and enhance our border security effectively. After that, then the host community where this mining is going to take place, they should have good education, they should have hospital, everything that a human being needed, so that their mind, their attention will be shifted somewhere else. And also there must be regulations in that sector. It's not everybody that will be allowed to come into the state to mine it or to do the mining. There must be strict regulation and enforcement, and the government must be serious about this. It's not just enacting the law, but ensuring that there is a serious compliance with that said law. So that is the best way to address that. You must ensure that the host community are well taken care. After that, then they should enhance the security border of the state.
All right, we're taking a break quickly on the program, everyone. Of course, we are going to continue this conversation right behind this break, because the challenge of insecurity and the adverse impact it has on not just the north of the country, but the entire nation cannot be overemphasized. And as such, we'll push the narrative a bit further shortly. Do stay with us.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on global television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momadou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Yeah, so see, I need to ask you this. When you look at sincere apologies for that hitch with our audio there. It has now been rectified. Thank you for your understanding. So Sonusi, I was just asking you about the renewed agenda of President Bola Tinubu vis-a-vis the situation, the security situation in the north and the concerted efforts to address it. What's your assessment?
Okay. Frankly speaking, this current administration has no any plan to address the problem of banditry in the north, even though I will not blame this government entirely, because the problem of insecurity in the north started, northwest started during former President Muhammadu Buhari administration. But still, it is the responsibility of this government to ensure that this problem of insecurity in the northwest is addressed. If the government is serious, let me tell you, any country that is serious to address problem of insecurity, normally it gives a deadline for the service chiefs to finish with this bandit or pest sack. But here we are, where the chief service, they will only call for a conference that we are doing this, but we are not seeing any impact. So the government is not serious. And if the government is serious, I can assure you that within 2 weeks, we will be able to finish with this bandit. Even the current governor of the state said before a national TV that if there is a political will, the government will be able to finish this issue of banditry.
That's Zamfara State Governor.
Zamfara State Governor. He said it categorically that if there is a political will, then the government will finish that problem of insecurity. Even though he is part of the leaders, we cannot say that he is just trying to to shift the blame. He is also part of the problem because he is a governor. I believe that if he is disturbing the president, going to the president on daily basis, even on daily basis, that Mr. President, this is what is happening in Zamfara State, and let us relocate to Zamfara State with you because you are the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Army Forces. If any part of the country is not secure, it is under your leadership. I can assure you this issue of banditry will finish.
I need to also highlight the fact that over time we've heard about some leaders of these different terror cells, whether it's Boko Haram, ISWAP, some sort of group of bandits somewhere in the northwest, have been arrested. At the point, again, like you mentioned, under the presidency of former President Muhammadu Buhari, even the office of the AGF under Abubakar Malami SAN had told us that 400 of them were going to be tried. Of course, at that point, there was even the debate as to whether the trial should be secret or should be conventional and so on and so forth. But the point I'm trying to put in front of you here is that when we arrest these suspected bandits and terrorists, are we doing enough work in terms of how we prosecute them? Because that at least probably should serve as a deterrent for others.
We are not doing enough because our criminal justice system is very weak. So I don't know, even I believe that most of these criminals now, they are awaiting trials. They have not, their case, some of them, even their case has not even formally commenced before a court of law. So if our criminal justice system is very strong, these people will have been killed so that it will serve as a deterrence for others who are maybe who are into that business or who are planning to venture into that criminal activities. So our criminal justice system is very weak in Nigeria, and there should be a serious reform so that anybody who threatening the peaceful coexistence of this country should be dealt with decisively and promptly.
On a final note, and in ways that are a bit more practical, and based on your own assessment, what do you think are some 1, 2, 3 things that must be done now so that farmers in the north, in their numbers, can return to the farm?
So, as I said it somewhere else, there is a nexus between insecurity and inflation. So, for us to address problem of insecurity in this country so that our teeming farmers will be able to go and farm freely without fear of being kidnapped or killed, the government must address issue of insecurity drastically. I will not say completely, because I know every society has a petty crime. After that, the government at all levels must invest heavily in agriculture so that our teeming farmers will find it easily to go to farm with the necessary equipment that will enable them to produce a reasonable quantity of what they are farming. So after that, autonomy of local government is very important, because if local government is investing into agriculture, likewise the state, likewise the federal government, the farmers will find it very easily. So the government must address problem of insecurity drastically so that our teeming farmers will be able to go and farm freely without fear of being kidnapped or being killed in the course of their farming. Because so many people, particularly in Zamfara, Katsina now, they are unable to go to farm because the bandits are taxing them. They will tax a particular community and demanded 10 million or 15 million. And if you refuse to bring that money, your community will never experience peace in that particular year. So the government should take this issue seriously. That is it.
And Nazris Sunusi, Global Affairs Analyst and President, West African Law Students Association, WASA. Thank you for being a part of Global Morning today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's glad to be here.
Great. That's where we wind down on our discussions on the program today. Queen and I will be here shortly to wrap it all up on Global Morning. Do stay with us.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on global television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are definitely,
Can we
we are
not
definitely, because
that this country gets it right?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Many thanks for staying with us. Interesting conversation around topical issue like fuel scarcity and provisions for farmers in the agricultural sector. Incidentally, this is where we call it a wrap on Global Morning. We've brought you highlights from breakfast ideas to topical discussions and front pages of newspaper review. I will leave you now to enjoy the rest of your day on Global Television with other programs on the lineup. At about 10 o'clock, Anthony Momodou will be taking you through the world of sport and Kike Lomo in business. From my colleague, Uyi Agbomofuegbe, and I, Queen Akpapa, we say do have a beautiful day ahead. See you tomorrow.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
You have done their work and put us to the wall. We are not your slaves. I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report. I have not seen the report.